Looks like we have a winner. So it's story time. If y'all don't follow me on Instagram, sucks to suck, but just a heads up for moving forward, I will let y'all vote on what story time I tell based on what y'all vote on Instagram. Now, let's get to it. So I have a first cousin and she is 11 months older than me, right? Long story short, we used to have play dates or whatever, but fucking that shit stopped happening when she turned like 5 years old. I grow up, I really don't hear nothing about her other than the fact that we don't know where the fuck she at. Super fast forward, I am in college, right? And my grandfather is getting very sick. His last days are coming, right? Now my grandfather, that's my baby. My whole life he done spoiled me, whatever I wanted, he gave it to me. So I'm like, this the one thing he want, I'm finna give it to him. He tells me like, Keela, I don't got that long, find her. I say, are you sure? He like, yes. I want to know if she's okay. I want to know how she's doing, blah, 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 whatever. I want some pictures. Find her. I know you can find her. Now, because I'm not no dummy, I know that good, bad, or indifferent, this shit could blow back on my uncle because this is his kid, right? So I reach out to him. I say, hey, he want me to find her. Are you okay with that? He's like, yeah, it's perfectly cool, blah, blah, blah. You know, go ahead and knock yourself out. Now, this is a spoiler. He really didn't think I was gonna find her. My uncle don't know me like that, but he learned very fast, right? Also, another spoiler, to this day, me and my uncle don't talk because of how this whole shit went down. All right, so me and Taylor, we kicking it, right? We watching Catfish. I think that the website they using is fake, right? Now, all I had to go off of was her first name, her middle name. I didn't know any of her family members' names or nothing like that. The first time I looked for her, I didn't really look for her for real. But as I got closer to graduation in college and my grandfather started pressing me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna look for her for real. So, like I said, me and Taylor watching Catfish. I think the website is fake. I get on it. And then I started finding shit. I'm like, let me see if I can look myself up, see what come up on here. No, all that shit was real and I took all my shit off of there, right? I think it was like People Smart or something like that. So then I started talking to my grandmother. My grandmother tells me her grandmother's name, right? Now, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. On a lot of these sites, it's hard to find millennials, but it's very easy to find older people like our grandparents because they've been in the same place for a long ass time. So I pull up her grandma name and then what come up? Boom, her mama name, her stepdaddy name, her last name, all that shit, right? Come to find out, she's a fucking Olympic volleyball player. What the fuck going on here? She lived in Texas. She went to college in Texas. She was on the fucking dean's list. I just started finding all this shit out about her because I started fucking I scraped the internet for like 10 hours looking for her ass. And then I found her ass on Facebook. So I shoot her a message, right? I'm like, hey, I'm 99% sure that you are my first cousin. If the following people are your family members, please give me a call and I'll put my phone number. She called me like, I don't know, a couple days later. We have a fire ass conversation, right? To the point where she invites me to come kick it with her for her birthday. But then shit started getting, damn, that was fast. Okay, now I want the focus of this part two to be honesty because that was the biggest thing for me, right? Now, me and Jess had an hour and 30-minute conversation, right? And I was just completely transparent with her. I told her like, you know, I'm only looking for you because our grandfather, his time is coming, yada, yada, whatever. I also told her like, I understand your position. You don't have to explain it to me. If you don't want nothing to do with me, I'm cool with that. If you want to get to know me and then like open the door for other people, I'm cool with that too. If you want to just keep it between us, the ball is in your court, but I'm just being honest with you, right? Now she asked me like, what have you heard, right? And as just like a show of good faith, I told her like, I really don't care to get into that. I've never heard anything from the source. Everything I've heard has been hearsay. I've never talked to my uncle directly about anything. He's never given me any details, yada, whatever. I tell her what I know and I'm like, that happened a long ass time ago. That really don't got nothing to do with us. Like we could just turn a whole new page, whatever. But I made it very clear, like, if you choose to like not want to fuck with us, I understand. My only request is that you and I could set up a time where we could like FaceTime and my grandfather can talk to you for himself. That's it. One time, that was all I was asking for, right? I led with being honest, right? My uncle should have also been honest. Now, this whole time I was looking for her, he would call me like every week or every 2 weeks to check in and be like, hey, did you find her? Blah, blah, whatever. My man's only gave me one heads up for real. Like, if you run into her auntie, don't go through her because she's not gonna help you. That was pretty much all he said, right? So I didn't tell my uncle when I found her. I told my grandfather, but I told my grandfather not to tell my uncle. I let some time go by before I told him, right? He calls again for another check-in. Hey, what's the update? Blah, blah, whatever. Now, in this conversation, he was kind of like, oh, well, I just hope you find her, and, you know, let me know if I can help you with anything, and I really just got tired of that, because I'm like, my nigga, I already found her, but I'm just let you keep talking. While he's in the middle of all of that, I was like, yeah, well, I kind of already found her. I talked to her like 2 weeks ago. We had an hour-long conversation, and it was great, and I might go kick it with her for her birthday. When I tell y'all I heard his fucking mouth drop through the fucking phone, I was like, yeah, I found her. He's like, oh, you did? Yeah, I did. Then mysteriously, he's like, yeah, you know, she's in Texas and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Motherfucker, you ain't think to tell me that? Like, when I tell y'all, he didn't give me no fucking help to find her ass. When I told him about it, he was just like, all right, good luck, go on. So then he's sitting there looking shitty like, well, did she ask about my married life? You know, does she care about her sisters? I was like, she really don't give a fuck about you, and she said that. So busted his fucking bubble. But then not too long after that, I get an email from her. Mind you, she has my phone number and she has my iCloud address so that we can iMessage each other. She sends me a fucking email. The title of it is Closure. First of all, the email pissed me off because it sounded like her mother wrote the shit. It was very bitter and it was very bashing to my uncle. Baby, y'all do not waste time. Before I get into this email, I'ma backtrack some and just give y'all a few more details. She asked me what I had heard. I told her multiple people were saying that we were having play dates, and then my uncle would come and get me, and after a while he just stopped coming to get me because her mom stopped dropping her off. Then also too, she lived in Springfield and I live in Chicago. Springfield is a 3-hour drive downstate. So, you know, her mom kind of made it difficult or whatever, but my uncle was like, I still want to see my kid. I'm gonna drive this 3 hours, whatever. So he stopped coming to pick me up because he wasn't taking me all the way down there just to drive all the way back and all that other extra shit. I was also told by, she kind of like gave my uncle an ultimatum or some shit like that. Like, she wanted to be a family, all this other shit. She wanted to get married, but I guess my uncle either, one, was not ready to get married, or two, did not want to get married to her. Again, this came from multiple people, right? My mom told me about the whole play date thing, right? My auntie told me some shit. You know, my grandmother told me a few things, but the gist of it was that I told her these things, and I'm like, this is from multiple people. This did not come from one person at all. We also talked about our grandparents on the phone. So I'm assuming that before our phone call and after me sending her the message, she talked to her mom, right? She said like, oh, I heard about Woodrow. I heard that he was so sweet, whatever. She also never mentioned my grandmother, which was odd to me because I'm like, they ain't tell you about her. But then the tea to that is that my uncle told me that my grandma found out that when they was living in Atlanta or some shit, some state, my grandma went down there and showed her ass so they don't fuck with my grandma. And baby, let me tell you, my grandma will cut a fucking rug, okay? So I believe them. I also kind of feel like that she found out that her dad was actually her stepdad after I sent her that message on Facebook because I did not list him as her father. So when I say shit started unraveling, shit started unraveling. Now this email, when I say bashing my uncle, let me be very clear. I already told this nigga, like, my nigga, why the fuck would you wait this long to try to reach out to her? You didn't think you should have did this sooner? Like, that's why I asked, like, are you okay with me doing this? Like, my nigga, this is really your job, but I'm following directions because my grandfather asked me to, and you gave me permission. She goes on, like, she calls him a whoremonger. First of all, ain't no 20-something, 30-something-year-old using that type of vocabulary. Like, she's smart. She has fucking degrees. She don't fucking talk like that. Like, the gist of the email, the voice of the email was just older. I knew it was her mother. She goes into this, he was sleeping around on my mom, blah, blah, blah. Making claims like he never paid child support, he didn't give a fuck about me, he never came to look for me. Like, all type of shit that was not the vibe I got over the phone. So, of course, I gotta respond. And I got receipts for that, too. I'm gonna put them in here in the next video. Y'all just keep getting faster. Now, in this closure email, she was saying some shit that just didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, this don't add up, right? It's one thing to be upset, but it's another thing to just completely fucking lie. She said he didn't give a fuck about me because he turned over his parental rights, which I found out he actually did. However, it made me curious because I'm like, first of all, anything with that much legal severity, you have to have a lot of fucking paperwork for. So what do? I go look up the fucking process of turning over your parental rights. First of all, I knew a lot of that shit she was saying was cap when she said my uncle never paid child support. Now, I ain't saying that the nigga ain't never been broke, but I ain't never known the nigga to not have money. On top of that, my grandmother said that this nigga never missed a child support payment, ever. Whether that's true or not, I feel like the nigga did pay child support. You know, because he got money. He still does have money to this fucking day. First of all, in order to do that, you have to be going back and forth with the courts for a long fucking time and have a lot of fucking paperwork for it, right? My nigga pulled up to court with all these fucking receipts, and apparently he was mad because he paying all this child support and he's still not getting to see his fucking kid. On top of that, in order to turn over your parental rights, the other parent has to have somebody else lined up to take on the responsibility of that child because the biological parent is stepping out. Like, one person's name is coming off, another person's name is going on. All this shit happened around the age of her being 5, which is why when the shit was settled, they got the fuck on and moved. Now, if my memory serves me correct, I do recall being told that the nigga who her mama was dating was my uncle's friend, okay? So, my uncle's friend is her stepdad and who her mom married. Messy. I was also told by my grandmother that after a while and all the back and forth shit with court, my uncle was just really exhausted with all of that shit. So now, even though I never met her mother, I think she's a liar off bat. So the shit that's not making sense to me, it's probably because her mama fucking lying. And I'm also positive that her mama told her some lies too. This is what I also will say. In the email, she was saying shit like, I owe all of my success to my parents, blah, 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 whatever. Girl, fuck that. You owe all your success to you. Your mama wasn't sitting in that fucking class doing your homework and papers and shit for you to get your degrees. Your success belongs to you. Yes, they can provide you a network and great connections and pay for shit, but you have the work ethic that got you your success. So please, hop off. So the email blew me because we talked about that in our conversation for like a smidget of the 1 hour and 30 minutes we was on the phone. And the whole email response was to bash my uncle. I never gave a fuck about that, and we didn't even talk about him for long. It made me mad how dumb she was being. Like, use your fucking head. 2 more things I really want to tap on. 1, she's very fucking smart. Like, I could tell the capacity of her intelligence by the type of conversation that we was having when I was on the phone. So the fact that she just wasn't using her fucking head, it pissed me off. But then 2, I'm like, that's her mom. That's all she fucking know. So whatever her mama tell her, she gonna believe, right? But then also too, it would be a red flag to me if I told my mama something and she started immediately getting defensive, she upset, like I would pay attention to that. And I'm like, sis, why is you not paying attention to that? Like, come on. But whatever. So some time goes by before I see the email because I had went on spring break and I was not paying attention to that shit. And she sent it to my actual email address, like my college email address. Now, when I responded to her, I sent this long ass fucking message because 1, I was over invested, and 2, you know, I just wanted to say what the fuck I had to say. Pause to read. Pause to read again. Pause to read again. And pause to read again. This is the final part of the email. Real shit, she could have just sent me a text and been like, Keila, I appreciate you looking for me. I appreciate the effort that you put in, you know, but after having conversations with my mom, you know, I just feel differently and I think I'm okay. You know, I wish, you know, it could have been different, but I don't feel like this is a good idea for me. Like, my nigga, you could have kept all that bitter ass shit that your mama just wanted her chance to rebuttal and say, right? Now, after that email, she did not email me back. I also did not tell my uncle what was in the email. I'm like, yeah, bro, she sent me an email bashing you. Sound like her mama wrote it. She upset, whatever. Now, I also go back and I tell my grandfather, like, look, I found her, but it's a bust. Like, her mom is mad. She wrote me this angry ass email, all this other shit. And, you know, surprisingly, he was just like, Keila, I get it. I'm not mad. I'm glad you found her. I have the update that I need, yada whatever. Now, what I also did do for my grandfather on his birthday, I took him some pictures that I found of her, because after our conversation we had exchanged like Instagram's accounts and, you know, like Facebook, we was friends on there and stuff like that. So I just went and screenshotted the pictures that was on there and I printed them out at Walgreens for my grandfather for his birthday. Can you say that one more time? I didn't hear you. What did you say? I didn't hear you. Now, if y'all paid attention, that video was from 2017. Me and my uncle was not talking. It's 2021. We still don't. Even after my grandfather. Okay, so let me clarify something. I graduated in 2015. All of this happened around like March of 2015. That video is from 2017. So I had already given him the pictures and stuff, but I think he had lost them or something. Somehow the pictures came up missing, which is fucking suspicious. I blame his fucking wife, and I don't like that bitch neither. But anywho, and I got a story time for y'all on her ass too. So in 2017, that's when I had reprinted the pictures, but I could only give him like 3 pictures because she had unfriended me and blocked me on everything, so I couldn't get no recent pictures. Now, fast forward, right? My grandfather passes not that long after all of this shit, right? My uncle is still not talking to me this whole time. My uncle is also my grandfather's power of attorney. Like, I knew shit was getting real when I went to the hospital with my grandfather and I had to help him sign his DNR papers. For those of y'all that don't know, DNR means do not resuscitate. It is a medical piece of paper that says, hey, if something happens to me while I am here, do not try to save my life. He was old and he was tired. Like, I got it. I understood what was going on, right? So I'm seeing my grandfather a lot. My uncle is still not talking to me. Like, literally, I walk in the room, he turned around, see me, turn back around and go back to doing whatever the fuck he was doing. Don't say shit, nothing. One time my grandfather was in the hospital and I saw him and I was having a conversation about, like, you know, it's okay to go. You don't have to stay here and try to hold on for me or no shit like that. Like, it was a really emotional conversation with my grandfather. My uncle comes in, I'm like crying and shit, and I asked him at the door, I was like, can you just please call me so that we can have a conversation? I do not believe in leaving a sour taste in someone's mouth. If we have a misunderstanding or whatever the case may be, I want to have a conversation about it so that we can smooth shit out and we can just understand each other better and move the fuck forward, right? Well, my uncle never called me. When my grandfather passed, my uncle never even called me to tell me that he was gone. He knew all of the fucking arrangements for everything, so that shit pissed me off too. Even at the funeral, the nigga didn't say shit. And it's like, I knew all of this shit was happening because he was mad about how shit played out with me and Jess. But this is what I'm saying. I asked my nigga from the beginning for permission because I said, you are aware of the possibilities, good, bad, and indifferent, right? He just should have been like, I know he asked you to look for her, but let me do that. I want to do that on my own time. I could have just been like, you know what? I found some pictures of her online, but I ain't found her yet. Or I could have just told my grandfather up front, like, look, Uncle Woody really not fucking with that. Another part of me is kind of like, man, you should have just fucking not said shit and not told her about it. Got my grandfather his FaceTime and called it a day. But whatever. That's that.